what my plan was, what my plan was is to record these and then upload them to Dropbox for the time being. If this starts getting some good momentum, then see what it costs to have it uploaded to Zoom's cloud. But at least we've got some record of these sessions, and we'll figure out how to post them out. But again, welcome everyone. My name's Jim Wood. I'm a Tri-Pacer owner just outside of Denver, Colorado. And here's the intent of these meetings. And you may have read about this in the ShortWing Piper Club news, or on a Facebook post or an email, wherever you got the information. Just a tiny bit of background. Before I bought my Tri-Pacer 2.5 years ago, I used to own a Piper Comanche. And the Comanche group, I could go on for a half hour on all the drama and politics, but just the end story is there's a faction of the Comanche Society that holds weekly Zoom meetings that I'm telling you guys are magnificent. And they hold them weekly, okay? And you may be thinking that's way too much. I'm not in love with the idea of weekly, but I love the idea of getting together us short wingers and just they trade ideas. They do a little hanger flying. They have guest speakers every week on topics that just cover the whole gamut of GA flying, especially geared towards Comanches, right? So it can be one week they had an insurance expert talking about getting insurance if you're getting up there in years. And then they had engine experts, and they've had group buy people where you could get shoulder harnesses or carbon monoxide monitors and so forth. And it's really well done. They have 4 people that work on this. And according to the person that organizes it, I got someone has got some background noise. I don't know who it is. I'm going to try to figure out and mute them. They pay it somewhere in the ballpark of $4,000 a year for what they're doing. I agreed with Steve that I would pay for this out of my own pocket, and I ain't going to pay $4,000 a year. But I'm happy to pay for the Zoom account and see if we can maybe get some cloud storage and that, and maybe do something real similar. Maybe it's just once a month or once every 2 weeks. I'm hoping at the end of tonight's call, maybe we can get some consensus on a good frequency and night of the week to do this. But it's just rather than reading a newsletter once a month, Kent O'Kelly's update, or reading the Piper News every quarter, I thought this would just be a little better tool to get a little tighter camaraderie among the short wing Piper group. So that's the intent. My buddy Scott Newman is on, I see, from Colorado also, and he was the one that said, yeah, do it. So so blame him too. So that's the intent. So the way they do it, and I'm just going to steal, and I already told the Comanche folks, CJ Stumpf is the primary one, and I told him I'm just going to steal as many good ideas as they have, and let's us tweak it the way we want to tweak it. But one of the things they do at the Comanche group is, again, just whenever you feel, if you feel like introducing yourself and just saying a little bit about your short wing, and we can start getting to know each other. So again, I've got a 1958 Tri-Pacer 160 horse outside of Denver here. I've owned it 2.5 years. It's in pretty darn good condition. I wish I could take credit for much of it. 99% of the work was done by the guy I bought it from. But Scott, as you've seen it and come and kick the tires, she's a great little bird. So I'm not an expert in Tri-Pacers. That's why I'm so glad that Steve and Tom and a few others of you that have joined are, but I sure can help with facilitate the discussion. So anyhow, who else would like to introduce themselves, where you're from, what you're
I'll jump in, Jim. This is Bob Oakes. So we're in the original meeting where we got 31 here so far. This is awesome. It's growing quickly. It's a nice job, Jim. I think I've owned my Tri-Pacer now. What's that? Oh, that's a mistake. I've had my Tri-Pacer now, I guess, about 3.5 years. Bought it off of Craigslist. It's a 54 with a 135 in it. It had sat in the hangar for about, I don't know, maybe 15 years. He hadn't touched it. Get this, he got married late in life, and all of a sudden women became more important than planes. I don't get it, but That stuff sometimes
Yeah,
happens.
that's odd. Yeah.
So yeah, it's let's see. I mentioned earlier for anybody who knows Jim Hahn. Jim Hahn helped me pick it up because it was at the same airport that he was at. So he was just a few hangars over, and he's kind of helped me. He helped me cart it down the Highway 270 on a Saturday morning, which was not the plan. That's not the best way to bring an airplane home Saturday morning on an interstate, but it worked out pretty nicely. So it's in the hangar being repaired right now. My last landing, I might have forgot that I had a short wing Piper instead of a Cessna, and I might have been a little high on my flare. So working on that. I'll update you on it. That's it.
Well, thanks, Bob.
I can go next.
Awesome.
I'm up here. My name's Pat Driscoll. I live in Caldwell, Idaho, and I own 2943 Papa, which is a 1956. God, no, 55. I got to think about it. 55 PA 22 150 converted to a tail wheel in the like 1980s or so, late 1980s. I've owned it now for about 8 years, and been a fantastic little airplane. Does everything I need to do, and it's tons of fun. Tons of fun. Perfect airplane for me. I just retired from about 25 years of Part 135 flying, so now I got some time to devote to it and time to do a little flying. Well, anyway, if you're up here in Idaho, look me up.
Idaho.
I'll go next.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Right here, Bob.
Oh, one more thing real quick. I used to own 888 Charlie. This is Pat again. I'm sorry. I just wanted to add one more thing. About 20 years ago or so, I owned 888 Charlie. So if anyone knows of the owner or where that airplane's at now, I'd be interested. Anyway, thanks a lot.
You got it. Thanks, Pat. I heard one other.
I'll take it over now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you got me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Bob DeDeese, live up in McCall, Idaho, and have a 53 tri-pacer with 135 horse. Just been flying it around, working on it. I'm building a 160 horse for it right now, and hopefully it'll be in by the end of summer.
Awesome. I'm going to be my lady friend's daughter lives in McCall, so I'm going to be up there later this year. Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I have a hangar right on the field.
Love that airport. She lives right under the downwind leg of your airport there, the south runway. So it's like prime real estate. Yeah. Who else is going?
Hi, this is Steve Crothers. I live in Livingston, Tennessee. I got a 53 1136 Charlie and a 56 4358 Alpha, the Piper Pub.
Yeah.
I rebuilt that airplane twice. Bought it, crashed, rebuilt it, then a deer hit it, took the landing gear off, so I rebuilt it again.
Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
This is Tom Anderson. I have the airplane behind me. It's a 54 tri-pacer with a 150 in it. I've owned it since 89, so it's been quite a while that we've owned it. And it was rebuilt by my father-in-law. Some of you may have heard of him, but a fellow by the name of Clyde Grant originally covered it before I got my license and before I got my A&P and IA. I've been in the club since then, so I'm a long-time member. And I see a few others that have been here almost as long, John Beck and one thing and another, and that's good to see. But we've flown it all over. We went to Alaska with it, Florida, and we've been all over the country with it. So, but it's getting time to sell. So anybody that knows somebody that had looking for another, or looking for a good dry pacer, give me a holler.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom.
Hey, this is Dave Nunmer.
Yeah, dude.
You hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a couple of tri pacers. I've got a 53 pacer with a 150 horse conversion. It's got the crosswind stole kit on it, and I'm in Malad, Idaho, and it's fun to fly. It lands pretty slow, runs out of elevator pretty easy because it lands so slow. But I also have a tri-pacer project, also a 53, but it's got the 0290 D2 in it, which seems to be in good shape, but it's a project. Just ready to start covering the wings here pretty quick. As soon as I get some help from my son. That's hard to do. So,
Cool. Thank you, Dave.
hey.
I'll jump in, I guess, and introduce myself again. Greg Childress. I'm hangared at Mesquite Metro in Mesquite, Texas. I live in Dallas, so my hangar's 10 miles to the east of me. Bought my plane in 2019. Was a really nice restoration. It's a 57 Tri-Pacer 150, and it got a 2011 Bronze Lindy at Oshkosh, Dale Berger in Pennsylvania. Did a really good job on the restoration. So I was really, really lucky to pick it up, and I found it in the ShortWing Piper Club classifieds. That's the only place he put it up for sale, and it had been there for a little bit, and I happened upon it and snagged it. So I learned to fly in that. I guess that's about it. I've been having just tons of fun. I went to Idaho for the ShortWing Piper convention and just got back from Arkansas up to Birds Adventure Center. And that's maybe a topic I want to put in front of all you experienced pilots. I want to pick your brain on backcountry short field takeoffs. I had a very exciting takeoff when I left. So I'd like to, like I said, get your thoughts on how to approach that maneuver.
Cool. Thank you, Greg. That's how actually I
Sure.
found my tri-pacers. I put wanted an ad looking for in the ShortWing Piper Club, like a dating ad you used to do in the news. Well, I didn't used to do other people I'm sure did. Yeah. Looking for, Cool. Who else would like to go real quick? I was thinking the way the Comanche group does it is they take the first half hour. And I was thinking maybe we do that plus or minus just to give everyone a fighting chance. And then let Steve take over and talk about the Rudder AD and all that good stuff. So who else would like to go?
Hey there.
Go, Scott Blair.
Hey guys. Yeah, this is Scott Blair. I'm up in I've got a PA 22, a Tri-Pacer 150 up in North Georgia on an air park with a grass strip. I'm teaching one of my daughters to fly in it currently. She's solo. We're just getting her ready for a check ride this summer. Yeah, we've been out to Idaho, not in that one, but in a friend's Tri-Pacer, and she's been in and out of Johnson Creek and some other great places. So we love to get out to Idaho. But yeah, I'm pretty interested in this. I appreciate y'all doing this. I'm definitely interested in whether if anyone wants to come offline and talk about it. We're currently working through some electrical issues with a generator starter, trying to troubleshoot that. So would love y'all's expertise on that because that's where we're hung up currently.
All right, cool. I saw David take a deep breath like you were going to talk. I told your story to my buddies at lunch today, David. So I don't know how David, tell us how you found your tri-pacer. But
oh yeah, well yeah, I was going to just introduce myself, and I'm glad to be here with the group. I met some of y'all up at AirVenture a few years ago. Got the tri-pacer. It was in the back of a hangar, museum restoration over at the Wham Museum in Hood River, Oregon, and flew it across the country back to Maryland. It was my first time flying across country I crossed the country by myself and crossed the Rockies, and it's been a great little airplane. And Steve Carruthers will be happy to know I just recently changed the propeller out on it. and it made 100% improvement in every aspect. So he was after me back in AirVenture a couple years ago to do that. But yeah, it's good to be with the group, and glad to be here.
What did you go from and to, David?
It was at the original propeller. It was what, that 76 the M-2, is that AM2? I think it had a AD on it. Every 25 hours, a mechanic had to look at it and file it and sign it off. And I went to the regular, Cincinnati metal 74 DM propeller. The original one, Jim Jenkins and his son, they restored that airplane, did a great job. They were real proud of that propeller, but it had that AD, and I was just really worried about it. So I'm glad I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Okay, cool. Hey, Pat asked a question in the chat about the convention. I don't know if it was you, David, I can't remember now, about Idaho. It was in Oregon. And I think maybe that he was asking, was there a convention in Idaho? Yeah, it was.
Yes.
Yeah, it was in Madras. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Jim, I'll go next if you don't mind. This is Scott Nauman. I'm dialing in from Centennial, Colorado, Denver, and I have a 160 horse 1959 Piper Tri-Pacer, and I bought it. Went into partnership with a guy named Dale Andrews. And for those of you that have been around the block for a few years, Dale Andrews used to be the secretary of the ShortWing Piper Club for a number of years. Had an ongoing article that was in there, and I bought the airplane from him a number of years ago. Lonnie Barlow was my mechanic for a number of years, and my current mechanic is Ian Christie. He helped me with the refabrication of wings and got me back up in the air. We've taken it to Oshkosh from Colorado. I think I've been back 5 or 6 times. And David, it's great to see you. We talked back there at Oshkosh, and the encouragement that you brought to us as ShortWing Piper owners, you just put us on the map, and your issue came in right before Oshkosh opened, and it was just absolutely perfect. So thank you for what you've done. And Jim, thanks for putting this together. I also just talked to Jim Dyer over at Univair this afternoon. He's helped a lot of us out to keep our birds in the air. And he's not able to join us this afternoon, but extends his greetings. We're grateful for Univair and all that they're doing as well. But Jim, thanks for what you're doing to put this together. It's just fabulous. And Steve, can't thank you enough for what you've done to fight for our club. So I'll sign off.
Hey, thanks, Scott. That's a great idea. I'll invite Jim Dyer. I think I've got his email address here. That's a great idea. Who else?
Okay. Dwayne Waters.
Go, Dwayne.
Dwayne Waters from the great state of Florida, down here in Merritt Island, Cocoa Beach, Kennedy Space Center. 1960 Tri-Pacer. Bought the project as pretty much a basket case. Spent 16 years restoring it. Brought it back to life. Flew it in 2018. Went to Sun and Fun, won some awards. I got enough awards from Sun and Fun that they wouldn't even look at it this year. They said I'd need to build another airplane. My kids have flown it. My dogs have flown in it with me. My dog, Georgia, has more hours in it than anybody else with me. We went up to Elizabeth City in it. Steve was there. We went out to the memorial. Great thing there. Year before last to the convention. Yeah, and the wife and I and the dog plan to go up to the convention this year. In where's it at?
Lockhaven.
Pennsylvania. Lockhaven, Pennsylvania.
Lockhaven.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Looking forward to that. I think it'll be a whole lot of fun. And yeah, so when Steve talks about this rudder thing, you guys still hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve talks about this rudder thing. I'll let him lead in, and then I'll add something to it here at the end. But great airplane. I love flying it. It's the best. You know, when I love flying it the most is when me and my dog's in it with about a half tank of gas in each wing, good calm winds, and it's just a hoot.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Who else?
I'll jump in next. So Tim Johnson, actually, my plane's in North Carolina. I split between North Carolina and Dallas. But you know, you mentioned Lockhaven. That's where I was born and raised. So a little bit of family history, to say the least, with Piper aircraft. So I'm a huge high wing Piper fan. I have a 57 Tri-Pacer with 160 horse on it. Had it for the last 4 years, and think similar to David, I bought it in Pacific Northwest, north of Seattle, and flew it from Seattle back to North Carolina. So a lot of fun. Did it with my oldest boy to say, so it was a ton of fun. And yeah, thanks for putting this together, and hopefully look forward to seeing you all back my hometown of Lock Haven here this summer at the convention.
Yeah, that'll be fun, huh? I'm hoping maybe next month or sometime next month, we do one of these and have the folks talk about the convention in depth. If it's not too late, frankly, but yeah. Who else would like to go?
I'll go.
Glenn Goff here from Plant City. Got a 57 Tri-Pacer 150. And she and I, my baby and I, have had a love affair for over 45 solid years together.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I just love her to death.
Wow. Man, that's cool. Thank you. We had someone else.
I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Mike Santine. I keep my plane. I have a 59 PA-22 150 9725 Delta at Ray Community Airport, which is just north of Detroit. I've had it about 3 years, and it's been great. I bought it to unrust myself as a pilot, and I really enjoy flying it.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Who else? I think.
Yeah, I'll go. Brent Patterson. I live up in East Aurora, New York, so pretty close to Buffalo. I had a couple inches of snow still this morning. I have a 56 PA-22 160. I've been flying the 22s for about 4 years, and then I've owned this one for 2. It's got a lot of nice STCs. I've been really enjoying it, putting about 50 to 70 hours a year on it, and I'll probably see some of you guys down at the Sentimental Journey and the convention there in June.
Awesome.
I'll go.
Okay.
John Beck, Newton, Iowa. Got a 51 Tri-Pacer with an 0290D. I've flown it, about 2,300 hours. I've owned it 37 years. I've had it to Oshkosh a couple of times. Early conventions years ago, I see Tom Anderson and Andy and a few that I remember from the day. But other than that, enjoy it. Still fly it about 50 hours a year or so.
That's awesome.
Hey, Larry Peterson here.
Hey, Larry.
I live in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, about an hour south of Lock Haven. A good friend of mine, Freddie Hefter, and I own a 1950 Pacer 125, serial number 114. The cool thing about it, it has 690 hours since factory new.
Oh God.
And it was just went through a total restoration in 2019. The only thing that we had to do to the engine, they polished the crank, they redid the cylinders, and it did need a new cam and lifters. But other than that, I flew it day before yesterday, and I just cracked 690 hours on a total time. We're looking forward to being up at Lock Haven. I'm actually going to take my motorhome up there, and Fred's going to fly the Pacer up. But I look forward to meeting all you guys. We've not been really active in the club, but we're looking forward to Sentimental Journey. Hey, I do have one question.
Sure.
Does anybody have a Pacer with the oil cooler mounted way back in front of the accessories?
On top?
On top.
I had one at one point in time. I had a Pacer serial number 811. It was a 52.
Okay. The funny thing that we have, when we climb out, the oil temperature will go in the summertime somewhere between 170 and 180 in the climb with just about full power. And when we level off, the oil temperature actually increases to about 205. And we've had the gauge rebuilt and calibrated. It's all right. It just we figured it's the way the wind's flowing through the cowling for some reason. But it actually oil temperature is cooler in the climb than it is in cruise.
It's probably the angle of attack that you're climbing at.
Yeah, it's getting more air.
You're getting more air up at the top.
Yeah. Huh. Okay.
That or you're sucking more air down through the you got a little bit higher vacuum when you're timing probably, and you're sucking more air down through the vent on the bottom of the cowl there.
Yeah.
Chances are it's leaking through the baffling in the front of the engine just before the oil cooler. It goes down underneath.
It's pretty tight. The guy that restored it used a fair amount of RTV. It's not leaking. I got about 1,000 hours of tail dragger time. I own a Sonorai. I've had a Champ and a Cub, and this Pacer by far is the most challenging tail dragger I've flown.
Oh.
Narrow gear, short couple. Well, it is.
What tail wheels you got on it?
We have a Mall. No, we have a Scott.
The 3000 or the 3200?
You got me there.
Yeah, 3200 is too big for that airplane, but people put them on there.
Yeah,
but
I'm wrong. It's a Mall. It's a Mall because it was on the equipment list in the book. Yeah,
okay. But
I'm not being a baby. It's just more sensitive than any of the other tail draggers I've flown.
It keeps you awake.
It does.
Because it's an original, can we get you to write a story for the next issue of the news?
I'm trying. We got a great story with it.
Well, this is the 75th anniversary.
Yeah. That airplane sat in a hangar for 55 years.
Yep.
And it was finally pulled out of there in 2018. That was a story in itself.
Well, we all want to read that story.
All right, we'll do it. I'm done.
All right, we got maybe one or two more people, and then we'll turn it over to Steve and maybe Tom.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, okay. Doug Walter, go ahead.
I'm here in home in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. I keep my plane in Indiantown. Bought it 3.5 years ago up in Chicago and flew it home in the snow. It's a 53 Tri-Pacer, 0290 D2, complete frame off restoration, rebuilt motor, everything in 2019 was completed. And I got about just over 400 hours on the engine now with the rebuild. And I love it, but I want to go experimental amateur built. So I don't know. I'm torn. My wife's like, why would you sell it? It's beautiful. All you do is get in it, push the key, and go fly wherever you want to go. And that's the truth. It's a beautiful little airplane. I love it. I would like to put an autopilot in it, although I love flying it, so I don't really want an autopilot. So it's the perfect little airplane.
Sounds like you need two airplanes, Doug. I don't know. There's a solution right there.
One for the cottage in Canada and one for here. I agree with you.
Perfect.
Talk to my wife. She already went to bed, but I can take it in there and you can talk to her.
Yeah, have her give me a call. Or I'll call her. Don't call me. Yeah. All right, cool. We got maybe one or two more guys.
Oh. Andy Seligson.
Yeah, Andy.
Hi, I have 1957 Tri-Pacer, 150 horsepower. I did have 1958 for 35 years, and that was done in by a microburst on landing. I'm in White Plains, New York. I'm in Yonkers, New York, but I base it at Westchester County Airport. And originally bought the plane to commute out to Long Island, where I had a seaplane and banner tow business. And I think it's a great plane, and it's a great club, and I think there's a lot to talk about. But I'll just put in one quick plug for the convention. It is the big anniversary for the Pacer, and as of now, we don't have any Pacers registered. So get the word out.
All right. Well, here's my thoughts. If you didn't get a chance to introduce yourself, I see like Isaac and one or two, Thomas Donnelly. If you could just take a moment in the chat box, if you wouldn't mind saying, I tried to take notes, but at least what you got and where you're calling from, so we can at least feel that love in the chat box. And then, Steve, would you like to jump on in and talk about the Rudder AD and the work you and Tom have been doing and so forth?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for calling in. This is I think this is a great idea and a great program. So, Jim, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
As you guys know, Tom and I and several other people fought this AD as hard as we could. Still pretty big burr in my saddle about this. Tom and I have been looking at a way to do this that was, get around replacing the rudder, and that there is now an approved AMOC. That's a global AMOC with a 3/4 inch tube. So, Tom and I have kind of backed away a little bit because, it's there. I was hoping Alex Cromer out of Illinois is the one that got the AMOC. I was hoping he'd be here because there are some questions I need to or want to ask him about it. But there's two methods. He has two methods. One is welding and one is a bolt. FAA approved it.
I'm easy. Good. I'm good. I'll be good.
So if you use a bolt, you don't have to take the fabric off. You just drill a hole through your router and put a bolt in it. Shove the tube up it and put a bolt in it. So
there's two bolts on that, Steve.
One at the top, one at the bottom. But you don't have to take the fabric off. If you're going to weld it, you have to cut the fabric and peel it back. As far as I'm concerned, that repair, the only way that would be suitable is if it's welded. But the FAA approved it with a bolt. So that's the AMOC for the rudder, yes. But there are other things that are happening, and I'm not quite ready to go completely public, but it's already been filed, so I can tell you what I'm doing. Once an AD is issued, we have 50 days from that date to appeal it. I am appealing this AD. The FAA so far has not been able to prove that it's a defective part, but yet we can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that neither airplane was airworthy. So I'm sticking to that, and I'm going to force the FAA to explain to me why a type certificate for an airplane means nothing. Because the type certificate clearly states, and the supplemental type certificate both clearly state that seaplane fin must be on that airplane. Neither airplane had it. When we made that in the comments, we made that comment. We told them the airplanes weren't even airworthy. They said they disagreed. So by disagreeing with the type certificate or supplemental type certificate, I guess that means you can do anything you want to your airplane and they can't say anything. But, because they just said the type certificate, which requires that equipment, didn't mean anything. So I am appealing this. The paperwork has been submitted. I still got a bunch of hoops to jump through, but I got it in before the 50 days because the 50 days, March 20th is when that AD became official. It was announced before that, but it was March 20th is the activation date. So I had 50 days from that. So I've already submitted the paperwork and got that ball rolling.
Steve, is there anything we can do or like AOPA or EAAs can do or something we can, or is that horse out of the
Not at this point. I'm waiting, I got to wait till the FAA gets the paperwork and does whatever they're going to do with the appeal. So, but there is a process to appeal an AD, and quite frankly, this AD should never have happened. But to Tom, I know you've kind of suspended what you were doing, but you want to tell us where you were?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things there. First of all, Steve has done a tremendous job and a tremendous amount of work in the fighting of this AD. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done. But a couple of things that come to mind with this whole thing. The FAA obviously is king. They can do whatever they want as king. And they've done it in this case. The Our intent was to submit an AMOC early on. The fellow in Illinois, I think, submitted his the day the AD came out, and quite frankly, I don't think there was enough work done to really address the issue that the FAA was concerned about. But the FAA did approve his AD, and so I've backed off a little bit. Our thinking was to reinforce that rudder post with a tube that was very close to the same size as the ID of the rudder post. The idea of that rudder post is 805 thousandths. Now, there's weld drop through and everything else inside of that tube from the assembly process that you're not going to take an 804 thousandths tube and ram it up there, even if they made a 804 thousandths tube. So I bought some adjustable reamers, actually off of Amazon. One is a 19 millimeter or 17 to 19 millimeter, and the other is a 20 to 22 millimeter reamer. Hand reamer is what they're called. And I got the two of them for under, I think it was under $30. It was 20 some odd bucks. And I have a test rudder to experiment with. So I took that test rudder and I went down to Harbor Freight and bought a unibit. They had a set of 3 unibits. The largest one went up to 3/4. And I mic'd it and everything. And I put that on an extension and ran it up there and hit a few things, but you could feel it take out. Wasn't heavily loaded. It cleaned out the hole somewhat, so you could get a 3/4 inch tube up there. Not real easily, but you could get one up there. I then took and ran
that you need to understand.
reamer
After you digest that, then the whole
up there and brought the size of that up with the reamer. I also turned and made a couple of bullets, if you will, or swaging tools to ensure that the tolerance on the inside, one, the tube is straight, and two, that that it was clear to put a 800 thousandths to 803 thousandths tube up in there. The current AMOC uses a 3/4 inch tube, which gives you roughly 25 thousandths on a side, or 27 thousandths on a side clearance between the tube and the ID of the rudder post. I don't know what good that's going to do. It might hold it if it starts to bend. I wouldn't even guarantee that, quite frankly. But it'll because you're going to get vibration in there that if you have a problem, it's going to continue to fatigue and that type of thing. If that is really the problem, I don't think it is after 80 years, but compared to the FAA, what do I know? Anyhow, we were going to put a tube up in there that was 805 or 803 thousandths plus or minus 2, and run a bolt in the bottom of the tube and put a plug in there and run the bolt through the tube. If your tube is long enough, it won't go up any farther. That you get the right length tube, and it won't go up any farther. And by putting a plug in there, you hold it in, and you seal that rudder post with whatever rust inhibitor or corrosion inhibitor you find suitable to put in there, either ACF 50 or standard linseed oil would even work. But the problem is getting a tube that's 800 and 3000s. The only way you're going to get one is to take a 7/8 tube and centerless grind it down. And so that was where we're at. I'm in the process of looking for a vendor that can grind us a bunch of tubing. Running it through a centerless grinder is no big deal. It shouldn't be all that expensive, but it's going to cost a little bit more than this AD that the fellow in Illinois has. But I think it'll be a better engineered fix for the problem if we decided to do that. Because it'll be more expensive, I've kind of slowed down. I don't think a lot of people will do that. I think they will probably follow the Illinois AMOC, and that's fine. It'll work in terms of satisfying the FAA, and quite frankly, we've never had a failure on a ShortWing of this type that I am aware of. I don't know anybody that's had that issue on a ShortWing, and so it's a nuisance AD as far as I'm concerned. That's going to cost us, in some folks, a lot of money if they order a new rudder. But that was going to be my proposal to it, but that would be subject to FAA approval.
Sunset.
And
Before, no time after, just sunset, just as the
I don't know, is somebody asking a question?
No, that was.
Somebody's got an open mic, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to mute you guys, but I can't. I'm not getting everybody.
Yeah. But that's the direction we are moving. And I guess I would like to hear if people are interested in going farther with this or use the existing AMOC.
So Tom, what it obviously cost is a little bit of a thought pattern there, but this sounds like it'd be a lot less expensive than buying the new rudder and waiting for Univar to have more of these rudders. Maybe it's a little bit more than the current AMOC right now, but do you have a ballpark on? I think Steve said last time he was thinking, all things told, these things might run, maybe $200 or something like that. Is it close to that, or is it?
It'd be close to that.
What's that?
It would be in that ballpark. By the time you buy the tubing, if you buy the reamers, like I say, they were relatively inexpensive off of Amazon. The only thing that people would have a hard time getting their hands on would be a swaging tool to put up in there. If you have a lathe, you could turn one very easily. If you don't, which probably a lot of our members don't, it's a little bit more problematic, but something like that we could put into the library. They're not very hard to make. I turned it out of 3/4 inch steel, and I put it on a 1/2 inch steel rod that'll fit in the chuck of my DeWalt hammer drill. And I figured if I was real close on size, that would run up inside there and swage it smooth and be a much tighter fit than the 3/4 inch tubing. The problem with the 3/4 inch tubing is you got 20 or 30 thousandths clearance in there. You put that bolt through the top and on the bottom for that matter, you're going to deform that tube until you get to the inside tube.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that's a problem. From an engineering standpoint, that's a problem.
I don't disparage the other one at all. It seemed like a very workable thing. but I kind of like yours a little bit better because it sounds like it's going to be more to tolerances.
That's the intent.
I
Yes.
agree.
I agree too. Yeah.
That's
I
why
agree.
Tom and I were looking at that because but something that has come up. I don't know how many of you guys saw it on Facebook, but if you buy a Univair from Rudder or for a Rudder from Univair, it comes with their primer on it. People were freaking out because Univair doesn't specify what that primer is. If people will learn to read, I know it's really difficult because it's a whole bunch of letters stuck together to make words, and those words make sentences. But in these manuals for these covering processes, they tell you that an epoxy primer will encapsulate whatever primer is on there. We had a big peeing contest, and I've not heard from the guy since when I pointed out that he just needs to learn to read the whole paragraph. You can encapsulate the primer that comes on that rudder with epoxy, and you are 100% legitimate within the STC of the covering process. You don't have to strip it. You don't have to blast it. You don't do anything. I suggest take a light Scotch-Brite pad and scuff it up, tack it off, and coat it with the epoxy primer as required by the STC. Let it cure, and you can cover it. So, by all means, please read the STC for the covering process you plan to use. Because, this guy, he asked a question and what he got was a bunch of self-appointed experts that just can't read the process. So, if you get a rudder, if you get one from Alaska Gear, by the way, they changed their name. They were Airframes Alaska. Those things come powder coated. If you've ever used powder coat, I wouldn't put that on anything I own. But if you want one that's powder coated, Airframes Alaska or Alaska Gear now has a powder coated rudder. Dakota Cub, I don't know what finish comes on theirs, if any, but they have a square hole in the control horn. So that means you got 4 stress risers in the control horn where your cables hook up. Univair has the 4130 rudder that everybody is familiar with. And Dwayne, did you have something you wanted to add?
I think you're on mute, Dwayne.
One other quick thing that I'll mention while that Steve pointed out to me is if you take a look at the AMOC for the welded version of that, if you're doing a repair or doing the AMOC with versus putting the bolts in with excuse me, where you weld the rosettes and the top and bottom, they specifically specify the Seconite process in those paragraphs. In going back and looking a little bit further at 4113 and a few other things, if you have another covering on your airplane, you are legal because the FAA says return it to airworthy condition. And if you look at the repairs for the stitch process or the polyfiber process, any of the others, they all have repair procedures in there for their covering systems. And in order to be airworthy, you have to follow the STC, and that STC will define what you can do for a repair process to repair the hole you put in there for welding it, for welding the fabric or repairing the fabric after you weld it. You know, typically, I think the Stewart process is approved for repair on any process. If I'm right, Steve, do you recall?
That is correct.
And but there are other if you're covered with air techs or one of the other processes, Superflight, um, they have repair processes in their manuals, and you can follow those. So the fact that the AMOC specifies only the Seekonite process, at least in my opinion, I wouldn't worry about that too much, as long as you follow the manual.
Yeah. Hey, quickly, somebody just asked for about nitric acid. Why are you looking for nitric acid? If you read the service bulletin, if your rudder was built before 1974, it is 1025 steel. There's no testing required. So unless your rudder has been replaced on your airplane post 1974 by a factory original Piper rudder, it's 1025 steel. If it was replaced with a Univair rudder, they have never ever been made out of 1025 steel. So if you have a Univair rudder, it is 4130. So look in your logbook. You don't need any nitric acid. It's hard to get. It's really hard to get rid of. Some states you can't even buy it. So that test, I don't know why they come up with that, but the service bulletin, if you look at 1379, it's been written 3 times. There's a 1379, an A and a B, and it's still incorrect. So if your rudder was made before 1974, so if it's original to your airplane, don't worry about it. It's 1025 steel.
Okay, can I jump in here?
Sure.
All right. I'm really interested in the AMOC that the club is thinking about doing, and you know, and I think we should proceed with that. I like that hole a lot better than the welding and the bolt and everything like that. So I'd like to know if we're going to continue to proceed with that and see if we can get that approved as an AMOC. And the next question, the follow up to that would be, you know, can the club put a kit together that would include, you know, the turned down pipe, tube, if you want to say, and the ream and everything, and what that might cost if we sold it through the club. The next thing I'm going to talk about is, and I've talked to Steve about this, but another ShortWing guy here in Merritt Island and I had the opportunity to fly down to Piper. This other member has a Univair rudder that he bought. And we had some input down there from a ShortWing member that's an employee for Piper. And he talked to the marketing folks and the engineering folks, and they were interested in maybe making some rudders. So we spent a day going down there, and they bought us lunch and stuff, and we gave them this Univair rudder, which they were going to, you know, basically reverse engineer, build some jigs for, and crank out the things. And they could do them at what they thought would have been a lower cost than the 2 producers that are producing them now, because they have some really good tooling and, you know, machines and stuff to do that with. They were real enthusiastic as far as the engineering team and the marketing team and doing that. So we left them with the rudder, signed a contract, you know, and saying that we would want to get that back. And we just got news this week that Piper legal exit, squashed it, done. It's not going to happen from Piper. So that's that story. But real interested in us proceeding and trying this thing, you know, Tom, and trying to make this work. Obviously, nobody's going to be able to turn these tubes down. Are you guys still hearing me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Obviously, nobody's going to be able to machine this stuff on their own. So, you know, if you could find a vendor that would machine these tubes down, it just seems like a better idea to me, so that we don't have to uncover a rudder. We don't have to stick a bolt through there. We don't have to do any rosette wells, and we don't have to repair it or recover it if that should happen. So I'm very interested in that, and I'm going to wait until that happens and see how that follow up goes till I do anything to mine.
What
Hey,
would,
Larry,
what would be the chances of us getting like on a list where we do a pre-buy on it so you guys don't have to be out for material or anything like that?
yeah.
I've
Hey,
got 5 years with a 135, but I wouldn't mind getting on it.
Larry Peterson here. I'd like to say something. Am I on?
Yep, you're on.
Yep. I think we should all feel a little blessed that we we do have an AMOC. We do have a solution. We're not dealing with a space shuttle here. I agree with Tom. Tom is a better way, but we can all take comfort that we do have a solution. And that bolt through the rudder spar is no worse than the bolt holding your flying wire on your horizontal stabilizer up to your rudder.
Well, that's incorrect. That is 100% incorrect.
Well, I'll stand corrected then.
There is a tube welded in there that bolt goes through, so you don't crush it.
What?
There is a tube welded in there where that bolt goes through.
On the vertical stab?
And the horizontal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that's true.
okay.
I remember that from when I recovered mine. Yes.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I thought you were talking about the rudder post or the rudder spar. All
Well,
right.
that's what they're talking about doing, but there's 27 thousandths of clearance in there.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question for Tom and for Steve. Dave Tulis here. You know, we do have some regional fly-ins here, and y'all have real good expertise. And if the tooling gets up to speed and we're able to make a sort of a group purchase and get these posts kind of fashioned where we want, you know, how long does something like that take to get inserted in the aircraft? Is that something that we could, you know, think about doing as either like a group session or during a fly-in where it's a multi-day event or something like that? Just curious about that.
I would anticipate it would take maybe 3-4 hours at the most. You know, you got to pull a rudder off, put it on a flat surface. You got to run the reamers up in there. You know, that takes minutes to do. You got to put in the tube, and it may take a little persuasion, but it shouldn't take much. That's part of my whole point in this. That should almost slide in fairly easy with very little extra pressure. But you put that on. Our intent is not to bolt in the top at all. Just bolt in the bottom and possibly not even go through the tube, just go through the plug that would make. I've got to figure out what to do for a plug, but my guess is to turn a piece of PVC, turn a piece of PVC to the right diameter, the 805 diameter, probably an inch long, inch and a half long, put up in there and put a bolt through it. Now it'll be a little bit different on the tail draggers because you already have bolts that go through that post on a tail dragger. What you would have to do is ream that out a little bit, about 30 thousandths on the side. So the post from the
tiller arm.
The turning arm would fit up in there.
Well, they could turn that arm down.
Huh?
You could turn that arm down. The tiller arm. You could turn the tiller arm down.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. That's 3/4. Now you could turn it down, but then replacing it becomes a problem if you ever have to go back and replace it. I'd keep it as standard as you can. And the easiest way to do that would be just to ream that tube for 3 or 4 inches up inside of there and use one of the reamers that were we have in there to ream it up. And the problem is on most pipers right now, unless they have a shim around that tiller arm, that a tiller arm is not, they've collapsed the tube or they got a loose tiller arm in there, quite frankly. Because the tiller, you go to Aircraft Spruce to buy that turning arm, it has a 3/4 inch diameter shaft on it. And again, the rudder post is 805. So what most people do is down at the bottom, they collapse that tube when they tighten that down. That isn't a lot, but it's not, in my concept of things, well engineered from that standpoint.
Okay, so do we plan to proceed with this and pursue it to try to get this a different AMOC?
Well,
and how is the FAA going to accept? Is already a AMOC approved? Are they going to accept another AMOC? Are we going to proceed with this? And if so, how long should we expect it to take?
Well, I'm going to have to bail here very soon. I've got something else that's going on for the next few weeks that's occupying a lot of my time. But once I'm done with that, I'm going to jump back on this rudder thing. I'm going to jump in with both feet, both on looking at the AMOC, but also with the appeal for the AD. The thing is to make a kit, which is what I would really like to do. We either got to get the club to come up with a bunch of money, because somewhere we got to buy the tube, get it cut, get it centerless ground, and then stock it in the store, which I'm more than willing to pursue. Either somebody like Tom or I go together and buy these and then sell them to the store, or sell them to the club and the club sells them, or the club coughs up the money to make these and then sell them. So the club would make its money
Steve,
back.
the way I see this, Steve, is if you get the AMOC approved for that, then you could sell the kits and the money would go into the store, and then we could produce it.
Well, right, but we've got to know what's going to cost before we can list them. So that's where I am. But I've already done a short one, and Tom is working on it as well. I know that 803 will go in an 805 hole. I do know how far it'll go before I need to persuade it a little more, but it'll go.
What do you want the wall thickness to be?
I'd be willing to put in $100 down payment, Steve and Tom, for y'all to move ahead. I mean, that's nothing.
We're looking at effectively doubling the wall thickness. So right now what we have is 35 thousandths wall. So we would basically have a 32 thousandths wall on the 4130 tube that goes in, but it's in full contact with the 35 thousandths wall tube that's already there.
And how long would the piece of tube be?
Just over 4 feet. So my suggestion would be for the tail draggers, shorten the tube.
Yeah.
The problem is at the top, not the bottom.
All right.
So if that tube is just shorter, so it rests on top of the tiller arm, it's not going anywhere.
You still have to get it through where your insert past where it's collapsed, I think, is the problem I'm thinking of.
You're going to have to make that round to begin with.
Yeah, on the rudder I had was off a tail dragger. I had a 3/4 inch guide that they use for guiding punch presses together from a friend, and I just brought that up in there. I brought it up to 3/4 inch real easily, and from there, quite frankly, it taking a bullet would open it up or round out that tube with no problem. And again, I've already I've run a reamer up. I haven't gone to the full size because the question is whether or not there was any point in pursuing this, and it sounds like there is. Couple of issues is yes, we've got to buy the tube. The initial investment is we were going to buy full length tubing and cut it down. And a kid could put together for a variety of reasons, not cost out of pocket or anything like that. It just more to do with tax issues. The if the club funded it, it'd just be easier paperwork all the way around to handle it. If if rather than the club buy it, if the club funded it, it's not an issue for us then in terms of declaring it. Because right now, the club, for anything the club sells or buys from people to sell, they have to issue 1099s for, and that's a whole hassle nobody wants to deal with. So,
well, wouldn't we want to get the AMOC approved?
Absolutely.
I mean, do one, get it done, make sure it works, and get the AMOC approved. And I think they would be support from the members of the club and people that are not members of the club if they know this AMOC is available to support the cost of it. I mean, we got guys saying they'll put $100 deposit down. I'd do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'd go ahead and pay for it now. If I knew this was an approved AMOC.
Right.
So the cost of it, get the AMOC approved and let's move forward.
Yeah. There's about a dozen guys in the chat room that are saying the same thing. They're willing to pre-buy the kit or put in some seed money or whatever we got to do. So I think there's a whole lot of momentum.
Yeah.
That's one of
I
the
agree.
things we needed to know.
The seed money isn't the issue. It's more. I wasn't at all sure people would be interested, and so it's good to hear that people are and want to go that way. The issue is primarily getting the tubing in and getting it centerless ground to the right size.
The steel warehouse should be able to centerless grind it in full length bars. I can check on that tomorrow.
Well, these remember a length of 4132 tube comes anywhere from 17 to 24 foot lengths.
Right, but it may be cheaper to have the warehouse centerless grind it in that length, cut it to size for shipping, rather than have a machine shop do it on a per piece basis.
I wouldn't do it on a per piece basis. That would be an upfront cost that would have to be made. That we bring in 17-foot long pieces or whatever they were, and I'd just have them run them through the centerless grinder, and we would cut them to the right length afterwards.
Right. Yeah.
We could cut them. It would be a little more of a pain, but then we'd have to identify whether it's a tail dragger or tri-pacer. We could cut them to the right length, so you could just put it in and put the tiller arm back in.
Do we need to get support to do one? Do we need money background? Do we need support to get one done and get the AMOC approved, and then we could move forward at how we want to do it?
Tom and I are working on that part.
Yeah.
Is this kit something that could
for us right now, it's just more of a time issue that we're both caught in for different reasons, and it's more of a time issue just to get it done. But time really, the other emphasis I want to make is we've got 2 years. We don't have to worry about this tomorrow. So we've got some time to get it done. Our intent is to do it, given the support it sounds like we have. Our intent is to do it. It's just a matter of time, and I've been tied up lately, and Steve is going to be tied up. So we're going to get stretched out a little bit here. But patience is our friend in this case, because what happens if Steve is successful with this appeal? That's going to raise all kinds of issues, I think, among a lot of folks. But
honestly, I don't have a lot of confidence in that, because once the FAA makes a decision, that's a decision. So I feel like that if we move forward with getting this AMOC approved as soon as possible, and if it takes a year to do that, then we got a year to fix our rudders.
Yeah, we do,
Yeah.
and you're right. But the appeal is not. It's like going to kangaroo court with the NTSB. It's not the FAA. So I'm appealing the FAA decision, but it doesn't appeal to the FAA. So
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask a quick question. Is this kit something that the typical airfield mechanic will be able to install for us?
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yep. So it should. I realistically, I'm thinking they should charge you half a day.
Mhm.
Bring the airplane in, take the rudder off, put it across a couple sawhorses on a moving blanket. Clean out whatever's in there, run the reamer up, get it coated, put it in, secure it, put it back on the airplane, and I would suggest if your rudder has been on your airplane for any period of time, while it's off, replace the hinge bushings and hinge pins because they're probably worn.
Yeah.
But
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So that's
Got my credit card in hand.
all righty.
Hey, this is Jim. There's a couple questions in the chat I was going to ask on behalf of the guys that posted them. Brent Patterson asked about, he isn't familiar, nor am I particularly, about this whole AMOC process before this. And he was asking if the one that's already been improved, can it be used by any owner, or does each individual owner have to do that? I'm guessing it's like a blanket kind of quasi STC thing, right?
It's a global AMOC, but you can't just use an AMOC without informing your FSDO that you want to use that.
Oh, okay.
No. Again, you have to tell them you're using it. You're not asking their permission. You're saying, hey,
Okay,
I use that AMOC. Unless they have an objection.
Now, what happens if they would have an objection, Tom?
Well, I ran into a situation where I was going after the AMOC that's on our website for visually inspecting struts versus punch testing. And the guy that originally had an AMOC to do that didn't have a global AMOC. And so when I called them to tell them I was using that, they took that and gave me a call back in a couple of days saying, you can't do that. You don't have the rights to do that. Go get a global AMOC, and here's what you do to do that, which is what I did. And they issued an AMOC that on my airplane, I have the Jensen struts, which are the 7/8 diameter forks, not the small forks that are on the production stuff. And I wanted to visually inspect them. And that's why I got the AMOC. Turns out the AMOC is good for not only those forks or not only those struts, but they're good for the original struts. So you can visually look at them. You don't have to punch test them. But
Okay, so let's explain.
That's all it takes is to inform the FSDO that you're using that AMOC.
You got to do a 337 on it then, Tom?
Say that again?
Do you have to do a 337 along with that, or no? Once you've done, the FSDO approves it.
Yeah, there's got to be a 337 that goes with the because you're complying with the AD.
Okay.
Well, you don't need a 337 to comply with the AD, Steve.
It's a major modification on the rudder.
Yeah.
So how do you inform the FSDO that you're using this AMOC? Give us that process. Does anybody know that process?
Just call
them. Well, you call your local FSDO and ask to speak to a inspector. Typically, in the case of mine in Cincinnati, they'll call you back first thing in the morning when they have time, and fairly quickly ours does. And you tell them what you're going to do. Hey, I'm required by the AMOC to inform you that I'm using this AMOC, and I want to comply with that issue. And you'll say, okay, what AMOC number is it? And if you have the right information from the AMOC, and it'll be on the AMOC, you give them that number, and That's all you have to do. You're not asking, again, you're not asking their permission. You're informing them.
So then you make that entry in the logbook that you talked to Joe Blow down at the FESDO and you informed him and you have complied with the AMOC and you're good to go.
You can put it in the logbook. You don't have to. You can just, one of the requirements of using an AMOC, at least as I understand it from our FISDO, is you have to tell the FAA that you're using that AMOC. That's all.
But somehow that would have to be tracked, that you notified him.
It goes in the logbook because you complied with the AD in accordance with the AMOC, whatever number it is.
Yeah, and the AMOC has to do it.
What a pain in the ass.
Welcome to the FAA.
Yeah,
we're here to help. Yeah. Hey, I got two more questions. If you guys can humor me in the chat group. Larry asked about using maybe a carbon fiber tube or carbon fiber bar to the right dimension. Thoughts on that? And then, well, I'll let you guys answer that. And then there's another question out there too.
I would buy a rudder before I'd spend that kind of money.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
All right. And then Rick joined late and he was asking, I can answer part of this, I think, Rick, and about the process is the reinforcement tube coming in from the bottom, right?
Yes.
And he has the massive beacon on top, and he was asking if that has to go away. I'm guessing it's a Grimes beacon up on top, Rick?
Yeah, it's a massive thing. I don't know what to do with it, but I thought maybe it would have to be removed, but then of course, and that would require recovering too to repair the hole that it left.
No, it doesn't leave a hole.
Well, it depends on what mount they have on that, Steve.
I haven't seen them. I've got all the mounts, and not one of them. They all mount to the stub that's on top of the rudder.
Okay.
Well, I've seen some other ones that they're all wrapped around with covering material and other
Well,
stuff.
that's probably another illegal modification, like the one that failed.
Yep.
That was a plate welded to the top of the rudder, which is an illegal modification to a flight control. But the FAA overlooked that as well.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've got tubes. I've got 7 tubes that have been replaced by the original Piper service bulletin telling you to take the rudder post out and replace it. We've got 7 of those from different airplanes. They're all documented. There is not a damn bit of corrosion in one of those. I've got my ducks in a row. So the FAA is not just going to be able to turn their head and say, oh, but we issued it. They're going to have to answer this.
Well, can we grind that little post off the top of the rudder?
Yes, because that post is not the rudder post. If you look at that from the side, the rudder post goes up and crimps into the trailing edge tube that goes over the top of the rudder.
Right.
That post is mounted forward to that, so it is directly over the hinge line. That is a 5/8 tube that's welded on top of that rudder. It's
so we
not
could actually grind it off because we don't need it.
Right.
Okay.
What was that for, Steve? What was that up there for?
Well, depending on which airplane it was, remember the Clipper had a tail light up there, but the long wire antenna attached up there.
Long wire antenna. Thank you.
I think that's all the questions on the AMOC and the AD. There's one or two other ideas for future conversations. We got one fellow, Mike Vossen, out of Victoria, Canada, Victoria, BC, that has a thing with owner maintenance category, and then there's a couple other questions that maybe we can address in a future one. Or if you guys want to, before you log off, hop in the chat box, and if you can help out the other two, one or two kind of varied questions, that'd be glorious. If there are any other final questions, I got one last thing to do with the meeting, but go ahead and chime in if you got questions for Steve or Tom on the AMOC or Rudder AD.
Yeah, I got a comment.
Cool.
I was on earlier. I had a meeting at the town. I had my civic duty, and I just got back on. I don't know what Steve's AMOC is. I kind of got an idea, but I just got on when you guys were talking about the FAA issue. I'm doing an AMOC on another. I'm going to use some foul language here. I do an AMOC on a Cessna, and AMOCs say that the FSDO has to be notified. So I figured, okay, to cover my butt, I sent them a letter. Hey, I'm using this AMOC. Boom. There's your traceability. There's your paper trail and so on and so forth, and you got your butt covered. So just the way I'm doing it. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it's the way I'm doing it.
I think that's probably legal. Recognize that it's going to, if you use the snail mail, it's going to take them longer to respond if they have an issue. Now they can you can tell them, hey, I'm using this AMOC, and they can come back to you if they have an issue. So, and hopefully they don't, because everything we think everything will be approved. Or if they accept the AMOC, everything will be approved. But,
I notified them by email, and I knew my inspector was going to get back to me in a timely manner, and he did, and so on. But I just figured that's the best way, other than the he said, she said thing sometime in the future, that there's the paperwork.
Yep, that's legal. Yep.
Typically, what I do when I'm dealing with them, I'll send them an email, but I CC myself. So
yeah, that's a good idea.
I sent it, but I get a copy also, so I can keep track of it and say, yeah, hey, look, I sent this and it went to you and it came to me, and
right. Yeah.
Because if you just send them a letter, there's no guarantee they're going to get it.
No.
Remember, it is the United States Postal Service.
But wait a minute. But if they send you a letter, they know that you're going to get it. It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Well, put it this way: if you send anything to me by U.S. mail, if it goes to Memphis, Tennessee, I'll never see it.
Okay.
I think if you send a certified letter, they're going to get it. Somebody's got to sign for it.
Yeah. Well, if you just send it, you don't have to send it certified, but just signature required. Then you've got a receipt that somebody received it.
Yeah.
Which is what I did with all of the paperwork on this AD originally. Everything I sent, that was signature required. Yeah. So I've got all the receipts from everything that we sent that was returned or that I got back.
I think one of the key things is, as far as your local FSDO is concerned, just try to stay on good terms with them. That's what I do. So, we talk a lot.
And you don't want to tell them to kiss your butt?
I try to avoid. I'm not going to say it. Well, I got a funny story, kind of. One spring I was sitting at the picnic table watching the birds flying in and out of the hangar with my little 410 shotgun, and I'll be darned, I'm sitting there in the shotgun, and the FAA inspector doesn't show up, and he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm waiting for the FAA to show up."
That's awesome.
Did he leave?
He laughed. He thought it was funny.
Make my day, huh? All right, hey guys, we got like 5 more minutes. There's a couple things I'd like to do to just wrap things up. One of I told you I was stealing as many ideas from the Comanche group, and it was not just the good stuff, the things that are bugaboos in my eyes. I love the Comanche group. I still attend those meetings, the weekly ones, but they'll go until the last person's done talking, and that can be 3 hours sometimes. And I just don't, I can't, I'm too crabby to do that. So I kind of wanted to hold this to an hour and a half, and then we got other topics to hit going forward here, if that's okay with you. I also kind of keep a rule or kind of eye on the number of participants, and we've already lost 6 guys. So I'm guessing we're getting a little long in the tooth on the meeting. So the last thing I was going to ask you guys to do, and I think it's probably best just to do it in the chat if you would, is I'd really like to get your feedback on overall what you liked or didn't like tonight, but also how often do you want to do this? If it's once a month or once every other or twice a month, if there's days that are better or not. I selfishly picked Wednesday because just my schedule, but I'm pretty flexible. But I called it ShortWing Wednesday because I thought it was glitchy and you'd remember it was Wednesday, but I don't care what day of the week it is. If you can just type it in the chat room, and then I'll see if there's a consensus. If there is, I'd be stunned. But if it's something that's all workable, and my thoughts on future topics is, I'd love to have us talk next time. Maybe get a quick update, but not spend the full hour on this AMOC. But I'd love to talk about the convention and just do one final pitch for the convention. And I don't know, Steve, maybe I'm behind the power curve on, is it too late to register if we do it a month?
No. You can still register. You can do it online.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
News. It should be on the website.
But it'd be nice to get a little more in depth on what's happening with the convention. And then similarly around, I'm thinking beginning to middle of June, I'd love to talk about maybe getting some gatherings at Oshkosh or at AirVenture. And I don't know if we want to do a fish fry night or something at Wentz, or sit around and drink brown liquor and smoke cigars, or maybe you don't want to do that around here.
Well, it depends whether the Piper Pub shows up.
Well, that's one of the things I hate to keep bringing in the Comanche guys, but they do, what do they call it? Fruity
Gumbo.
blender drinks or something like that at Oshkosh every year, and something fun. So I'm all for doing that. The whiskey ideas seems popular. So please, before you log out, if you just take a second and post in the chat, I'll keep the Zoom meeting open for another 10 minutes or so so you get a fighting chance to type in, and then we'll go from there. But any other thoughts? Go ahead.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. I have attended many of those Comanche Town webcasts as well, and this, I think, I was hoping that someone would start this. So thank you very much. One thing that Comanche Town does is they kind of occasionally, it seems like they get together and they schedule or plan a trip somewhere. I was on, and they were going down to Mexico. We don't have to go international, but we can just decide on a destination and fly there for a meetup.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Hey, Greg.
Yes, sir.
There's a beautiful state park in Kentucky that's got a lodge and a restaurant, and it's right on a lake, and they got a runway, and it's Kentucky, so that's international.
Yeah.
Gotta have a passport.
What is the name of this place?
Rough River, Falls of
Rough River,
Kentucky.
Rough River.
There's also Kentucky Dam State Park too. There's a runway there, and cottages. That's on the north end of the lake. Yeah.
Rough River is kind of in the center of the state.
Yeah.
Cool.
Scott Noman and I've been talking about doing another fly out of Colorado for you guys that wanted to fly uphill.
Why don't you guys talk about a 2026 convention in Colorado?
You broke up a little there, Steve.
Did I stutter?
Yeah, something. Well, we'll think about it. I mean, Scott, we talked kind of about that, huh?
Yeah, I was a part of that 92 or whatever with Dale Andrews last time we had it at Centennial.
That was a great convention.
That was a lot of work, but boy, it sure paid off. It was a lot of fun. But we'll see. We'll see what develops here. But with Jim, I just have to say thank you for pulling the trigger on this thing. This is an awesome thing to rally us together. We're a different kind of brotherhood and sorority, fraternity, whatever, male, female. We got all types of pilots and such. Even though there's a lot of guys on here tonight, but just really good to hear this and to see it. So Jim, thanks for putting it together.
Yeah, my pleasure. We'll do it again. We had 36 people on at the peak today, and pass the word to your buddies so that we can do it again. And I'm happy to do it, guys.
I think doing this on a regular basis will also increase participation in our annual convention.
Yeah,
get everybody involved again.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I'm thinking, like I say, either every 2 weeks or every month. I'll see whatever all you guys say. It's not, I don't get an overriding vote, but either once a month or every 2 weeks or something like that. I think could be good. All right. Thanks, fellas and lady.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining.
Yep.
All right, Scott. So we're doing the convention. Is that what I heard?
Yep.
That just came out of nowhere here. I wasn't ready for that.
Hey, got to find a place for 2026. So hey,
Andy will appreciate it, believe me.
Yeah. No, that was no, it's a lot of good, but no, I just a lot of fun and really, Jim, to see what this does between the convention and Shortwing Piper News kind of a thing. I think this is a wonderful thing, wonderful platform for us to keep the conversation going.
Yep.
And I hate to say it, but the AD has really prompted, I think, that initial interest to say, I got to figure this thing out. What am I doing? So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Yeah, I probably should stop recording, but there's an evil part of me that wants to encourage we do the convention at our airport because of all the, well, I shouldn't say it, but the noise complaints. We had lawsuits and everything. It was like, oh,
let's put some more lead in the air, shall we? Around
oh my God, I got to stop recording.
Anybody hear me?